Hello there. This is Rabbi Yonatan Udren, and I am with Rabbi Reuven Grodner. Shalom, Rabbi Grodner.
Shalom, shalom, Rabbi Udren.
Good to see you. Looking
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah to you.
Happy Hanukkah.
And as you know, the holiday is approaching. We're almost there. I love looking into the text and getting a picture of what this holiday is really going to be about. And so coming up to Hanukkah, I wanted to do that, but I didn't just want to do it myself. I said, wouldn't it be awesome to call up Rabbi Grodner and go through the text? And so while I have you on the line, while we're Zooming together, I thought we'd do a little Chavruta on the Gemara and Shabbat.
Great.
So,
looking forward.
Good? All right,
Good.
Rabbi Grodner. So here we go. I'm just going to read a small piece of Gemara, and I look forward to you peeling back the layers. This is a Gemara in Shabbat, Kaf Aleph Amud Bet 21b. So it says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught, Mitzvat Chanukah, Ner Ish Ubeito. So the basic mitzvah of Hanukkah each day is to have the head of the house light one candle. V'mahadrin, the one who wants to beautify the mitzvah, Ner lekol echad ve'echad. Each member of the household would light one candle. Ve'hamadrin min mahadrin, but the one who wants to doubly beautify. Beit Shammai, here we have an interesting machloket. Beit Shammai omrim, so the house of Shammai says, Yom Rishon madlik shmona, mikan ve'elach pochet ve'holech. On the first night, well, really on the first day, it says here, the first day we light 8 candles, and from there on onward, we decrease. Beit Hillel omrim, Yom Rishon madlik echat. On the first day, we light 1. Mikan ve'elach mosif ve'holech. From here and onward, from the first day onward, we add 1 candle each day till we reach 8. Now, obviously, we are familiar with the tradition of Beit Hillel, not of Beit Shammai, but it's very interesting that it's recorded here in the Gemara, and it's a fascinating discussion. So, Rabbi Grodner, I'm going to turn it over to you. I look forward to hearing what you have to share with us.
Well, we have something very unique and very sui generis when it comes to the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah in several respects. First of all, Gemara is talking about mahadrin and mahadrim and a mahadrin, which means not only are we supposed to beautify the mitzvah, but to super beautify the mitzvah. This concept does not exist with any other mitzvah in the whole Torah, whether it's a Torah law or a rabbinic law. There is no such thing as mahadrim and mahadrim by any other mitzvah. There is a mitzvah of hidur mitzvah, yes. That applies to all mitzvot, which means that we should beautify the mitzvot. If we're going to buy a talit, it should be a beautiful talit. If we're going to buy a mezuzah, it should be a beautiful mezuzah. And there's even but there's a limit. Chachamim placed a limit on how much we should spend in order to beautify a mitzvah. That's 1/3. Meaning, if I see an etrog that cost kosher etrog cost 100 shekels, but if I would spend 1/3 more, let's say 133 shekels, I can get a very beautiful etrog. I should spend the third, but I don't have to spend 150 shekels to get the most beautiful etrog of all. And so too with other mitzvah. There's a certain limit as to how much we should expend for the sake of the beauty of a mitzvah. Here, when it comes to Hanukkah, when we're talking about mahadrim and a mahadrim, we go far beyond 1/3, because if the initial mitzvah is 1 per night, and I fulfill my obligation, if I only have 8 candles, that's all, I have no others, and I light 1 each night, I say the blessing and I fulfill my mitzvah on 1. And yet, what do? We light 1 each additional night, coming out to 36 altogether. So instead of expending 33% to beautify the mitzvah, I'm expending something like 450% to beautify the mitzvah.
Wow.
Where does this concept come from? Why suddenly with Ner Hanukkah? So one of the reasons that's given by the Netziv, who says as follows: in reality, the whole mitzvah of Hanukkah is seemingly redundant. What happened? Hashmonaim came to rededicate the Beit HaMikdash, which had been defiled by the Syrian Greeks. They removed the idolatry. They had to reconstruct the altar. And now they're coming to light the menorah. For the first time in years, they're able to light the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash. Now, under halachic scrutiny, it would have been permissible for them to light the menorah even with oil that was impure. Under those circumstances, Tuma Hutra B'tzibur, as it's called, the majority of people were impure, the oil was impure, it would be permissible to light the menorah with impure oil. But the Hashmonaim said no. We are going to light the menorah for the first time in years. If we're going to do the mitzvah, we're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it the best way. We're going to make sure that the first lighting of the menorah is going to be with pure oil and not with impure oil. And they said, but there's only one cruise of oil. We don't have enough for 8 days until we have pure oil. What are we going to do? Should we wait? No, let's not wait. Let's take what we have now and let's begin. Let's begin the mitzvah. So they wanted pure oil. They wanted to begin the mitzvah immediately without waiting. And they did all of these extras in order to beautify the mitzvah. If this is what the Hashmonaim did to beautify the mitzvah, then we have to beautify the mitzvah as well. And that's where the idea of Mahadrim and Mahadrim comes.
That's amazing. I love that, Nasiv. I had not heard that before. I'm wondering, when the Rambam discusses the mitzvah, if I remember correctly, he calls the mitzvah of Hanukkah Chaviva or Chaviv Ad Me'od, something along those lines, correct? I'm just wondering if the reason that he discusses the importance or the beauty of this mitzvah, the beloved nature of this mitzvah, as I don't think the Rambam discusses other mitzvot. Lulav, it doesn't say it's beloved. Shofar, not beloved, but something very beloved about the lighting of the candles. So do you think that's connected as well?
I think that you're absolutely correct. The Rambam makes reference to mitzvah chavivahi ad ma'od. It's a very beloved mitzvah. And he doesn't say that about any other mitzvah, neither rabbinic or Torah law. Doesn't say anything like that. What is special about the Chanukiah, the lighting of the Hanukkah lights? And I think the answer lies in the fact that the menorah was a source of manifest miracle for all to see. What I mean by that is a certain measure of oil was placed into the menorah, each of the 7 cups of the menorah. It was a half a lug of oil. That's the amount that was used. And every cup received an equal amount. But for some miraculous reason, there was one ner that continued to burn even when the others were extinguished. That was called the ner tamid. The ner tamid. The ner tamid that we have in the synagogue today comes from the ner tamid of the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash. So the Gemara says later in Masechet Shabbat that Edut hi l'chol bai olam shehashchina shora b'Yisrael. If you want proof of God's presence, you want to see with your own eyes a miracle, just look at the ner tamid. There you will see God's presence. And that's what makes the ner Hanukkah mitzvah chavivahi ad ma'od.
That we can still experience that divine presence today. It never left us. Something that we see in the lights that's eternal. Yeah, that's what
Correct.
You're saying? That's
Correct.
Very beautiful. I wanted to talk about this machloket just for a second. Very interesting. 2 different, very different models of lighting. The one that we're familiar with, Beit Hillel, where we start with 1 candle and on the 8th day we light all 8. But Beit Shammai has a very different vision, where we start with 8. It's almost hard to imagine it. If you would show up at someone's house and they would pull out 8 candles on the first night, it would be shocking. Never seen anything like that. So we've become so accustomed to the Beit Hillel way. The Beit Shammai way seems very foreign, but there's an essential machloket that is recorded here. So there must be something about Beit Shammai's opinion that they felt was important to record. So can you just give us a little bit about why there's this essential machloket about lighting Mahadran and Mahadran here?
Yeah, the Gemara itself, as we proceed later, gives 2 explanations for the controversy between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. However, there is an underlying conceptual difference of opinion that is not only here related to Ner Hanukkah, but it's related to many other laws as well. There's a certain perspective, a difference of perspective from that of Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Let me give you an example. If I were to show you an acorn, and I ask you, what is this? You may say, it's an acorn. You're holding an acorn. But somebody else might say, that's not an acorn. That's an oak tree. Don't you see the oak tree? Put it in the ground, give it some water, wait a little while, and you have an oak tree. In other words, there's a potential in that acorn to become an oak tree. Now, this is 2 perspectives. They're both right. They're both right. But it's a difference of perspective. I remember when we, thank God, built our home in Kfar Adumim, all we had was the floor, the walls, and the roof. And that's what I saw when I walked in. Floors, walls, roof. When Chaya walked in, she saw the kitchen and how it's going to be laid out and where the oven is, where the refrigerator is, and she saw the dining room and the dining room chair. Everything was in her mind. She already had the whole floor plan in her mind just by looking at the empty house. She was able to see things as they are in their potential. I can only see things as they are right now. I have the same problem using Zoom. That's why I call Chaya all the time to help me with the Zoom.
So who is the tree and who is the acorn?
So here's the controversy. The Chashmonaim came and they found 1 jar of oil. Now, this was miracle. This was miracle oil because it should have burned only for 24 hours and now it's burning for 8 days. So the question is as follows. Do I see the potential miracle that's in that jar of oil? If I look at the potential, the potential is 8 days of miracle. That's the potential. And each day that passes, that potential decreases. It goes from 8 to 7 to 6 to 5, etc., down to 1. That's how Beit Shammai perceives the miracle, from the potential aspect. Beit Hillel, on the other hand, is more of a realist, shall we say, and says, wait a second. On the first day, you have 1 miracle, 1 day miracle. Second day, you have 2 days of miracle. The third day, you have 3 days of miracle. Let's look at the reality, not the potential. That's the underlying difference between Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel.
I was thinking also in that metaphor as far as IKEA furniture, something that Israelis love. When you bring home a table, you get a bunch of pieces of wood and screws. You don't get a table. So, you could call IKEA and say, wait a second, I ordered a table and you gave me a bunch of screws and pieces of wood, right? But Beit Shammai's vision is very powerful in that it sees the ultimate purpose of what will become and what will be. And I guess what we're hoping for, but we live in this world, I guess, which is why we do Beit Hillel. We live in the world that sees it is for what it is. And we have to kind of build that potential ourselves, so to speak.
Right. And the halacha, as you say it correctly, the halacha is like Beit Hillel, and the proof lies in the very name Hanukkah. Because the very name Hanukkah, spelled Chet Nun Vav Kaf He, is an acronym. Chet, which is 8, Chet Nerot, V'halacha, kibeit Hillel.
Yeah, famous, beautiful, Rabbi Grodner. This is very sweet. I just want to just add onto that metaphor. The Maharal says something very beautiful on this, in line with what you said, but I think articulates it a little bit differently. That according to Beit Shammai, this is the important phone call. No problem. According to Beit Shammai, the day that has the most potential is the first day. There's an excitement around the first day. That first candle lighting would say the Shechianu. So that's really the ideal. Whereas Beit Hillel would say, no, in this world, we have to build, we have to work. You have to create something more tomorrow than you did today. It's a world that it requires our effort and our engagement. Therefore, the excitement is on the last day. We see what we've built. Whereas Beit Shammai sees the first day, all that beauty and all that potential revealed in that initial excitement. So beautiful. I guess whatever we, whether we, even if we're not able to see the table or see the tree, we have the acorn in our hand. The holiday of Hanukkah does allow for these beautiful lights to shine, for the lights of potential and the lights which will please God be actualized, the eternal lights, as you mentioned very beautifully. And I bless you and Chaya and the whole family and everybody listening that we are able to take these beautiful messages and take these teachings and bring them with us into the holiday as we light our own Chanukiot.
And to you as well, Rabbi Yonatan, to you and your beautiful family, and to all of our friends in the RRG Beit Midrash.
Yeshar Koach, Rabbi. Hanukkah Sameach to you.
Hanukkah Sameach. Hanukkah Sameach.